Welcome back to The Wandering Screen. I'm Matt Koss, and today I'm taking a look at the Emmy nominations. Today, Emmy voting ends for the 77th Emmy Awards, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to start taking a look at who I think will win and who I think should win in some of the main categories. This year, we had Severance with 27 nominations, and we had The Studio and The White Lotus with 23 nominations. And we're seeing a lot of the same shows nominated within the categories, which I think is a bit of a shame because we are living in a time where there's so many different streaming services and networks and still cable as well. And there's so many performances to choose from, let alone within the creative arts Emmys, a lot of different talent behind the scenes that should also be nominated. And this is also to say not everyone can be nominated, but I think there's something to say that in a category like supporting actress in a drama series that we have 4 nominees from The White Lotus, when there are countless other shows that could have received a nomination, like Jessica Madden in Dark Winds, or even Delaney Hayes in Interview with the Vampire. I think there's a lot of shows that are missing because they're not being talked about enough, but that shouldn't necessarily reflect the nominees because there are so many fantastic performances to celebrate and a lot of fantastic nominees that are deserving of their nominations. But let's dive into a few of these categories, and I'm going to give you a rundown of my thoughts and impressions of them, and let me know in the comments as you're watching if you agree. So let's start first with coming to the TV movie, which I think is a lot of fun because what the hell is a television movie anyway in the world of streaming services? I mean, anything could be considered a TV movie, but you've got Rebel Ridge, which was never going to get a theatrical release given that it's on Netflix, and Nonas as well, which is a Netflix movie, but somehow a television movie. But my greatest joy of the winter was watching Bridget Jones's Mad About the Boy. It was such a perfect film, not just because of the films that came before it, but as a standalone one with its heart and with Renee Zellweger's performance. And to me, that's the movie that I think should win, but I do think Rebel Ridge is going to win. Now let's take a look at the animated series. We have Arcane, we have Bob's Burgers, we have Common Side Effects, Love, Death and Robots, which is incredibly inventive, and of course, The Simpsons. Now, this is a bit of a tough category because what exactly are we judging with the animated series? I think for me, something new, something that was really captivating from the get-go, and something that was actually very adult compared to what you would think an animated series would be, is Common Side Effects. I think it had a really interesting story that is very relevant to today and relevant to our natural resources, and very interesting animation that accompanied the scripts. So I think that one should win, but I do think that The Simpsons might just win. Now I want to turn the attention to limited or anthology series, which is a very interesting category because like last year, we saw that Baby Reindeer pretty much swept the category, and it might be looking like this could happen again with Adolescence, which was a huge hit on Netflix, and deservedly so because it has the conceit of the one shot in each episode, and technically it's an incredible feat for television, and especially to have the audience that it did, because it's just, it's a lot to ask of an audience to stay with a show when it's just one take for a whole episode. But director Philip Barantini managed to create something that was just as engaging in the way that it was shot as in the way that it was written. There's also Black Mirror in the category, which, I mean, I might be on my own on this opinion, but I don't think Black Mirror has been as good as when it first started in the UK. I thought that Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story, was pretty awful to watch in how it depicted the tragedy of this family and kind of exploits the story for the benefit of entertainment. And I guess that can be said for a lot of different shows, but this one especially, I thought that Ryan Murphy's show was just taking it too far this time. The Penguin was fantastic. I don't know if this is going to end up being a limited or anthology series. Something tells me that the popularity of the show might give it another season like The White Lotus ended up happening. And then we have Dying for Sex, which is the Michelle Williams starrer about a woman who finds out she has cancer and wants to really live her life the best way that she can before her time runs out. And it was incredibly affecting, and it balanced this humor with this tragedy in such equal measure that you think that it's going to be a really hard watch, but it had such a levity to it. It had such a lightness. And I think that balance of tone for me really gives me the edge of who I think should win. But I think what will win will be Adolescence. And then we come to the lead actress in a limited or anthology series. And look, we've got Cate Blanchett, we've got Rashida Jones, we've got Kristen Milioti, we've got Michelle Williams, and we've got Megan Fahey. And we have powerhouse women in this category. But what I really hope will win will be Michelle Williams. I really think that she should win for that incredible performance. But who I think will win, who also gives a standout performance in a series that really could have gone all the way to Colin Farrell, is Kristen Milioti, because she just plays unhinged so well, and she also has this constraint to her. It's just a really vivacious performance. So I think Kristen Milioti will win. Now let's take a look at lead actor in a limited or anthology series. We have Colin Farrell in The Penguin, Stephen Graham for Adolescence, Jake Gyllenhaal for Presumed Innocence, Brian Tyree Henry for Dope Thief, and Cooper Coate for Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story. And if you take a look at what's already come with the Golden Globes, you could say that Colin Farrell should win this one. I'm going to say that Brian Tyree Henry should win for Dope Thief and his incredible performance. Who I think will win and just take that little step over Colin Farrell might just be Stephen Graham. If people are voting for Adolescence for the best limited or anthology series, it might give Stephen Graham the edge. So I'm going to say that he will win. Then we have the supporting actress in a limited or anthology series, which is once again very tough. And without going into all the different nominees, look, I think Jenny Slate should win. I think she's been very underrated for her career. And this performance in Dying for Sex is really heartfelt and really funny, and it gives such a texture to the show. But who I think will win? Look, I'm tossing between two here. It's either Deirdre O'Connell for The Penguin or it's Erin Doherty for Adolescence. And it's a really tough pick. And who am I going to choose? Time's running out. Erin Doherty. It was a great episode 3. I think that she will win it. And then we have supporting actor in a limited or anthology series, and we have Javier Bardem for Monsters, Bill Camp for Presumed Innocent, Owen Cooper for Adolescence, Rob Delaney, Dying for Sex, Peter Sarsgaard for Presumed Innocence, and Ashley Walters for Adolescence. And look, Owen Cooper will win this category. It was a revelation because it was his first role, and he is so effective as this child killer. I guess we can just say it as it is. But who do I think should win it? Honestly, Peter Sarsgaard in Presumed Innocent is one of the best performances that I've seen him in a long time. And I really think that he should win. Okay, let's take a look at the comedy series. Not that the ones that I thought that should be nominated should be in there. I thought that The English Teacher should be in there. I thought that Overcompensating should be in there. But look, we have the nominees, so let's get into them. We have the supporting actors. We've got Ike Barinholtz in The Studio. We've got Coleman Domingo in The Four Seasons. Harrison Ford in Shrinking, who really is fantastic and I think should have been the lead actor in that show. Jeff Hiller and Somebody Somewhere, which is long overdue. Ebon Moss-Bachrach for The Bear, Michael Urie for Shrinking, and Bowen Yang for Saturday Night Live. And who I think should win is Coleman Domingo for the 4 seasons. I think that he added a lot to that show that wasn't being brought by some of the other actors. I think there's incredible comedy performances, but sometimes I felt that the show sagged when it came to Will Forte and Tina Fey, and it might just have been their characters, but Coleman Domingo really brought a lot of fun to the show. Who I think will win, I think, and this might be a little bit out there, but I think Jeff Hiller might just win this. I think that his nomination is overdue. And since the show has ended, it might just give him the edge. Now let's take a look at the supporting actress in a comedy series. And where's Stephanie Koenig from English Teacher? But let's take a look at the nominees. We've got Liza Collins-Ayers for The Bear, which is not a comedy. Hannah Einbinder for Hacks, who in season 4 was really her strongest season. Catherine Hahn for The Studio, which was, having worked in the industry for 10 years, very triggering role. Janelle James, always deserving for Abbott Elementary. Cheryl Lee Ralph for Abbott Elementary. Catherine O'Hara for The Studio, and Jessica Williams for Shrinking. And look, I'm a big fan of Jessica Williams, and I think she's fantastic in Shrinking, but I don't think that the writers are giving her what they should be giving her, because she needs more comedy and she does not need to be tied to Jason Segel's character the way that she has been. I wish there was more of her own story, so I don't think that she's going to win in this category. I think Catherine O'Hara should win for The Studio. She is incredibly strong, and I think honestly that she will win because it is kind of a departure from what she has been doing also in The Last of Us. I think she's got the edge here. Let's see. Now, for lead actor in a comedy series, we have Jason Segel for Shrinking. We can take him out. Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building. Look, after a while, it gets a bit tedious for me. Jeremy Allen White for The Bear, not the strongest season. And then we have Seth Rogen for The Studio and Adam Brody for Nobody Wants This. And I think Adam Brody should win, because he has a brilliant performance as the lead actor in the comedy series to balance out Kristen Bell's character. And I think that it just really, the chemistry between the two really makes him deserving of a win here. But who I think will win and is equally as deserving is Seth Rogen, who is just everywhere at the moment. And he really does give a fantastic performance, even though I was shouting at my screen at so many things that his character does. But Seth Rogen's got the edge here. And then we come to lead actress in a comedy series. And we've got Uzo Aduba in The Residence, who was fantastic. We've got Kristen Bell in Nobody Wants This. We've got Quinta Brunson in Abbott Elementary, Ayo Edebiri in The Bear, which is not a comedy. And then we've got Jean Smart in Hacks. And look, I think Jean Smart should win because it is, like Hannah Einbinder, one of her best seasons of the show. But I do think that Uzo Aduba will win this category because we see so many repeat nominations here, except for Kristen Bell. But I think Uzo Aduba really carried The Residence in a way that a lead actress in a comedy series should. So I'm going to give her the edge. All right. And the all-important question, which comedy series is going to come out on top and which one should come out on top? Now, if I'm looking at this list, it is a lot of repeat nominations from previous years. Abbott Elementary, Hacks, The Bear, which is not a comedy series, Only Murders in the Building, Shrinking, What We Do in the Shadows. And look, I hate to say this, but I've got to cancel them out because they've always been here. And so I'm looking at The Studio and I'm looking at Nobody Wants This. And I think Nobody Wants This should win because it is original. It is a lot of fun. It was something, it was a show that I watched twice, which in an era of too much TV, that is saying something. But, once you watch too many episodes of Gilmore Girls over the fall, it's probably not good to continue watching and to diversify a little bit. So Nobody Wants This should win for me because I just adored it. But I think what will win is The Studio because we are in Hollywood Hollywood loves themselves. Hollywood loves seeing themselves. And the studio is really an incredible feat also in filmmaking. And look, if you haven't seen the series, don't worry. You can watch an episode of this and really get a sense of what the show is like. And episode 2 really gives you an idea of the power of the studio and the filmmaking behind it, especially with Seth Rogen's direction. So if you haven't seen it, take a look. I think the studio will win this. And here we come to the drama category. This is also a big one and also kind of deflating because I wish that there were more series nominated. And here's where I want to bring up something. These categories have existed for a long time. And I think it's time that the Emmys kind of diversify the way that they are spreading these nominations out, because a lot of shows that do exist on TV may not get the same audience as some others, but it doesn't mean that they're any less deserving. So when it comes to a show like Law and Order SVU, where Mariska Hargitay is giving still one of the best cop performances ever, there should be a category for best show over 5 seasons long, or best performance by an actress who's endured 20 seasons, like Ellen Pompeo as Meredith Grey in Grey's Anatomy. I think there is a way that we can incorporate a lot of the newer shows that aren't seeing these nominations come to them, and that the nominees are clogging from 1 or 2 different series the whole category. So when we're looking at supporting actor in a drama series, we've got Zach Cherry from Severance, we've got Tremel Tillman from Severance, we've got John Turturro from Severance, Sam Rockwell for The White Lotus, Jason Isaacs for The White Lotus, Walter Goggins for The White Lotus, and then we have James Marsden for Paradise. Now, a lot of people loved Paradise. I wasn't too crazy about it. Severance, I think, in the Emmys this year is a delayed response from season 1 when it should have gotten more nominations in that year. And I think season 2 didn't quite live up to what season 1 was. And a lot of the episodes, especially 6, 7, and 8, really dragged on and maybe didn't need to be in there. But I think that one of the best performances, actually 2 of the best performances of the show, was John Turturro in episode 4 and also Tremel Tillman across the season, because they are really great actors. When it comes to The White Lotus, I have to say that Walton Goggins and Jason Isaacs were pretty one note for the entire season. I mean, you got Jason Isaacs, who was pretty much drugged up the whole time, and you had Walton Goggins constantly thinking about killing his father across a number of episodes, and he was always very dour. So I don't think that they're going to win this one. I thought that Zach Cherry did a great job in elevating a lot of his character with a lot of new material, especially the introduction of a wife for Dylan, his character. But I do think Tremel Tillman should and will win this category. Supporting actress in a drama series is another interesting category because we've got 4 nominees from the same show. And they're all fantastic. We've got Amy Lou Wood, we've got Natasha Rothwell, Parker Posey, who really fit into the shoes that Jennifer Coolidge left out for her perfectly. And then we've got Kerry Coon, whose monologue in the final episode really ties the whole show together. Then we've got Patricia Arquette for Severance, who was very much sidelined for most of the season up until her character gets a bottle episode. And then we have Julianne Nicholson for Paradise, and we have Catherine Lanasa for The Pit. And look, who do I think should win? Catherine Lanasa for The Pit. I think she really gives an incredible performance in a show that really is an ensemble piece, and she really does stand out at where everyone is hoping that she will come back for the second season, which I guess she does because they've had a teaser already come out because, Emmy voting. But then who I think will win is actually Kerry Coon. I think that Kerry Coon is one of those actresses that can read a phone book and make it interesting. And I think that that monologue really showcases her talent in not just being amongst an ensemble, but also standing out amongst an ensemble. And it was the same in The Leftovers as well, where she really shone above a lot of the other actors who were all putting in fantastic work. That I think Kerry Coon will win this one. And then we have lead actor in a drama series. And we've got Sterling K. Brown, who gives another fantastic performance in Paradise. Gary Oldman for Slow Horses, keeps getting in there. Pedro Pascal for The Last of Us, even though, would you call that a lead performance if he died in episode 2 and comes back for one flashback episode? And then we have Adam Scott for Severance, who really does carry a lot of the show because of his character. And then we have Noah Wyle in The Pit. Now, I'm just going to say this. The Pit was my favorite show of the year. And I'm going to have to give both the should and the will win to Noah Wyle, because I just think that the way that he calibrates his performance across the season, which starts at 9 a.m. and finishes at whatever time it was, or maybe it started earlier, 7. God, I can't remember because it was one day of work and I thought they'd gone through a month. But he was really fantastic in the show and really carried that season as not just someone that has played a doctor before, but has a performance that is vastly different than a doctor character that he's played before. So I'm going to give this to Noah Wyle in both the should and the will win. Then we have lead actress in a drama series. We've got Kathy Bates in Matlock. We've got Sharon Horgan in Bad Sisters, the second season. We've got Britt Lower in Severance, Bella Ramsey in The Last of Us, and Kerry Russell in The Diplomat. Now, I would like to think that Britt Lower should win this. She's really fantastic as Helly, and especially in this season where she has to play both the innie and the outie with very subtle differences, that she did a really fantastic job. But Kathy Bates in Matlock delivered in every episode, and it's also a season that is very long. And she manages to calibrate her performance just like Noah Wyle, but in a way that you really feel for Matlock and the friendships that she makes throughout the show and how much she has at stake, not just with her family and with her job and with what she wants in her life. Kathy Bates is deserving of this award, so I think she will win this. And then finally, we have the best drama series. Now we have Andor, we have The Diplomat, we have The Last of Us, Paradise, The Pit, Severance, Slow Horses, and The White Lotus. Now Andor is a phenomenal show, and I think it should win this category. And I think it would be really great to see Tony Gilroy earn some praise for this show within the awards space. I think The Last of Us might be reflected on for its second season once we get further down the line, because it was very different tonally than the first season, surprising in that way and also somewhat deflating as well. And then we have Severance, The Pit. Look, I told you The Pit was my favorite show last year, and I'm going to pick that as the will win. And I think Andor should win, but The Pit really was marvelous. And I'm going to say that will win. And that's all from me. I can't wait to see what happens. And I want to know what you think as well, because look, these are just my impressions based on what I enjoy and what I've enjoyed throughout the year, but also what I've been reading in the trades, and just hoping that there's a bit more variance in the winners for this upcoming 77th Emmy Awards. And I would love to know what you think. Look, do you agree? And what shows do you think should have made the cut? Because really, I think that Will Trent should have made it in there, especially for Ramon Rodriguez as a lead actor. It would have been great to see him included too. But let me know what you think. I can't wait to hear, and let's chat again next month. See you next time.